Good morning. My name is Kris Mathis, and you are attending the webinar, How to Spot Potential Workers' Compensation Fraud. Presentation will be approximately 20 minutes, and then we'll have a 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. If you have questions during the presentation, please ask them in the Q&A window that should be in the lower right of your WebEx screen. I'll be answering any questions posed in that Q&A at the end of this presentation. This presentation will also be available online. So first, a little bit about myself. I have 21 years experience in claims and management and field services. I've handled multiple jurisdictions and lines of business, which has included SIU field investigations and legal groups. My focus has been casualty insurance, particularly workers' compensation. I have a BA in history from California State University at Fullerton, go Titans, and a Juris Doctorate from Trinity Law School. I also have a WCCP, which is a workers' compensation claims professional designation, and a California self-insured administrator's certificate. I am a past member of the governing committee of the Workers' Compensation Insurance Rating Bureau, and I currently serve on the board of directors and the executive committee for the California Workers' Compensation Institute. I joined Pacific Comp in January of 2014. So before we get started, a little bit about our company. CopperPoint Insurance Companies were founded in 1925. CopperPoint is a leading provider of workers' compensation and commercial insurance solutions. CopperPoint currently operates in 6 states: Arizona, California, Colorado, New Mexico, Nevada, and Utah. CopperPoint Mutual Insurance Holding Company is the corporate parent of California-based Pacific Compensation Insurance Company. All CopperPoint companies are rated A- excellent by AM Best. Our purpose today is to deliver some key insights on what types of activities or situations employers and the brokers should keep an eye out for during the claims process. These activities, individually or combined, may be indicators of potentially fraudulent activity. This information is often critical for claims administrators to appropriately investigate questionable claims or activities associated with the claims process. While fraud is a very broad topic, given our limited time together, we will keep our focus on the following 4 areas. In the cost section, we will have a brief overview of the different costs associated with possible fraudulent claims activity to get a sense of the magnitude of the issue. In the fraud definitions and types section, we will review the fraud definition and the different participants involved in the claims process where fraudulent activity may occur. In the spotting potential fraud section, we will walk through some specific areas of the claim process and review the key potential fraud indicators associated with them. And lastly, in the what you can do when fraud is suspected, we'll review what activity you can undertake to ensure that questionable claims or activity is investigated completely. The costs. So workers' compensation insurance fraud costs the industry an estimated $7.5 billion annually and is the fastest growing segment of insurance fraud. So for some perspective, there is approximately $62 billion spent annually in the workers' compensation state and federal structures. So approximately 12% of that, according to the NICB, is potentially fraudulent. During the fiscal year 2015-16, the California Fraud Division identified and reported 5,380 suspected fraud cases, assigned 502 new cases, made 249 arrests, and referred 167 cases to prosecuting authorities. That potential loss was estimated at $193 million. So there are more than just monetary costs. Some of the hidden costs involved with potentially fraudulent claims activity is lost productivity, increased staffing costs, decreased morale, and higher insurance premiums. So fraud, a definition. Generally, there are specific legal definitions of what could be characterized as fraudulent claims or fraudulent claims associated with the claims process. For illustration purposes, we are using the legal definition for insurance fraud in California, which are three components, according to Insurance Code 1871. The first is a statement. So a statement could be oral, written. It could be in the form of a claim form, a bill for services, payment for services, or even hospital records. There is a materiality requirement, meaning that the representation must be relevant or significant to the issue at bar. And of course, both the statement and the material statement must be done so to obtain or deny workers' compensation benefits. Note that aiding or abetting fraud in any form or being a co-conspirator may also be prosecuted. In other jurisdictions, the definition may be slightly different. However, the legal concept is the same. Each element must be met for the claim or activity to be considered fraudulent. This is important because the specific legal elements of fraud will need to be met in order for there to be any illegality in the actions or activities. It is also important to understand that whether law enforcement elects to take action based on a referral or not, the jurisdiction controls what potentially fraudulent activity may mean for the claim itself. In some jurisdictions, a conviction may mean that the claim could be denied in its entirety. In many jurisdictions, only the portion of the claim where the alleged criminal behavior activity is undertaken will the impacted benefits be properly denied. So the takeaway here is that where fraudulent activity or behavior is found to be present, the claim or portions of the claim may be denied based on the jurisdiction. Note also there is a remedy of restitution available to payers where activity found to be fraudulent may be repaid by the person committing the fraud. So fraud types. So there are 5 different types of actors that might be involved in the workers' compensation claim process. The first is physicians. So physicians, for example, might be involved in impermissible ownership or impermissible referrals to each other. There may be improper billing or billing for services that didn't occur. Next is attorneys. Attorneys may be involved with similar impermissible referrals. They may be involved in what is known as capping, or is the improper solicitation of legal services, or they may be knowingly representing an injured worker or other client involved in workers' compensation fraud. Employers may be involved in fraudulent workers' compensation activity. For example, they may be suppressing claims. They may be hiding claims or giving false information. There is also potentially premium fraud. Injured workers may be involved in the fraud process by presenting a false or fraudulent claim or making material misrepresentations regarding their prior history or current level of activities. And lastly, there are other folks that may be involved in the workers' compensation process and may be involved in fraudulent activity. Typically, these are non-medical vendors, for example, interpreters, subpoena services, and rehabilitation vendors. Recognizing fraud, red flags. Indicators of fraud, or red flags, is information that raises suspicions regarding the legitimacy of a claim of injury or a transaction relating to a workers' compensation claim. The presence of one red flag does not establish a fraudulent claim. However, all red flags should be investigated. So note here that the vast majority of claims and their transactions are not fraudulent. However, employers are required to pay for legitimate claims and services only. Thus, where one or more red flags are present, a complete investigation into those claims or services should be completed to ensure these claims or transactions are indeed legitimate. So key indicators of workers' comp fraud. So there are 5 key areas where red flags may be present. They are the timing of the claim, the questions regarding the injury or the accident, events occurring during the claims process, medical treatment issues, and injured worker history. So first up is the timing of the claim. Timing of the claim is important. It may indicate and raise questions as the reason a claim of injury might be filed. So where the first notification of injury is made from an attorney after an employee is terminated or laid off, following a good faith personnel action, employment warning, or change in employment policy, and after returning to work from a weekend, a holiday, vacation, late Friday afternoon, or Monday morning, or its functional equivalent. Also, the timing of the claim could be suspect, where the injured worker took unexplained or excessive time off prior to the claimed injury, and where the injured worker is new on the job, and also where the injured worker is involved in seasonal work that is ending. So next up is questions regarding the injury or accident. So first, the description of injury is vague or changes. The types of injuries claimed are inconsistent with the mechanism of injury described. For example, there is a slip and fall on a person's right side, but somehow the left arm is now injured. Did the injury or accident occur while the injured worker was performing duties inconsistent with normal job requirements? For example, did they fall off a ladder when they're never using ladders? Did they become injured using a tool they never used or asked to use? Another red flag is, was the accident unwitnessed? Or did the injury or accident occur in a place where the claimant wouldn't normally be? The employer's first report of claim contrasts with the description of the accident set forth in the medical history. Fellow workers hear rumors that the accident was not legitimate. It is very common that fellow workers may hear rumors regarding the legitimacy of an accident, and those questions or concerns should be addressed. So several employees have similar injuries and use the same physicians and/or attorneys, or the attorneys and/or the physicians are known for handling suspicious claims. Next up is events during the claims process. So first, is the injured worker consistently uncooperative? Is the injured worker unusually familiar with workers' comp, claim handling procedures, laws, and terminology? Has there been a law enforcement inquiry regarding the validity of any part of the claim? Did the family and witness know nothing of the claim when contacted? And after an injury, is the injured worker never home, or the spouse or relative answering the phone states the injured worker just stepped out? Next, the injured worker comes to the office for delivery of benefits checks and avoids the use of U.S. mail. That may be an indicator that the injured worker is concerned about surveillance of their activities or behavior. The injured worker refuses to allow visits or rehabilitation at home, or specifies plenty of warning time prior to a visit. Or there's information obtained which indicates the totally disabled worker may be currently employed elsewhere. Next is medical treatment issues. Has there been extensive or unnecessary treatment for minor subjective injuries? Are the injuries primarily subjective? Example, pain, headaches, nausea, and inability to sleep. And is the diagnosis inconsistent with medical treatment and or the diagnostic findings? Does the injured worker cancel or fail to keep appointments or refuses a diagnostic procedure to confirm an injury? And do the treatment dates appear on holidays or other days that facilities would not normally be open? Some additional issues in the medical treatment area. Excessive reimbursement requests are made for medical equipment or medical supplies that would be covered under workers' compensation. Mileage requests do not align to medical treatment dates. The injured worker changes treating physicians several times. The physician is known for handling suspect claims. The employee's injuries persist after release to return to work or protest any efforts at return to work. And lastly, the injured worker history. Has the injured worker submitted substantial material misrepresentations on the employment application itself? Does the injured worker have a history of personal injury claims, workers' compensation, general liability, automobile claims? Does the injured worker have a job history which indicates many jobs held for short periods of time? Is there a family history of workers' compensation claims? Is there a criminal history involving fraud? Now, we need to point out this is not related to other criminal behavior as a strong indicator of workers' compensation fraud. We're looking at prior history of fraudulent behavior involved with money. Does the injured worker have a history of self-employment? And does the injured worker participate in contact sports or physically demanding hobbies? So what to do when fraud is suspected? First, understand, again, that most claims are not fraudulent. Next, report the claim and any concerns you might have regarding an existing claim immediately to your carrier. Initiate any usual internal investigations and share results with the carrier. And stay in contact with and partner with your carrier, their SIU team, and or law enforcement during the claims process. So now we've come to the question portion, and I do have some questions here. And the first question is, can we get a copy of the material shown today? We will be issuing, probably a little bit later today, a blog in support of this presentation, which will have all of the same information, and we look forward to your feedback on that. So we have a question: how do you determine a history of workers' compensation claims? Now, typically this will be done by your carrier. Most insurance companies, when a claim is presented, will run what's known as a BI, or a bodily injury index. And we can see the information related to any prior claims. Typically, we will find out if they were litigated, what type of claim, and we will get that information. And this can be very relevant for simply apportionment purposes, but it can be very relevant when the injured worker, either by way of deposition or through their medical reports, has either omitted or has denied prior injuries to those body parts. So we have a question here. It says, how do I, as an employer, work with my examiner to help prove the claim is fraudulent? And again, I think the most important thing is to immediately ensure that you have reported the claim in a timely manner. And if you have any information relating to questions about the mechanism of injury, rumors, please share that with the carrier. Typically, when concerns are raised, a field investigation would be in order. And typically, we would send out an investigator to the site to meet with witnesses and to collect any relevant information to handle the claim. During the claims process, even after the claim has been reported, if you come into information relating to the activities of the injured worker, rumors that they may be working, please get that information to your claims administrator. They may be aware of it, they may not, and it is more important to be safe than sorry. So the question is, if you are a new adjuster, how do you focus on the entire claim and not just narrowing in on finding fraud? And I think that's a great question. And I mentioned a couple of times through the presentation, I think it's very important for claims administrators to be very disciplined and take each claim as it is presented, with the idea that workers' compensation is a benefits delivery system, and that most claims are not fraudulent. They should be handled in the manner they are intended. We are a benefits delivery system. We should investigate the claim, determine its validity. Once it has been accepted, properly and promptly administer benefits. However, that said, it's important to understand the obligation to the employer as well to ensure that only legitimate claims are indeed paid and that a complete investigation is conducted when a claim is presented for administration. So we have a question, what is the time frame to being able to investigate and share that information with the claims adjuster? And I would say there is absolutely no time frame. As soon as you are aware or have any concerns, please conduct a dialogue with the claims adjuster and let them know your concerns. There is no time that's too late. There is no action that can't be taken to investigate a claim. I think it's very important. I should also note that a complete and robust investigation can be done quickly and very respectfully to all parties involved. Okay, the question here is, what if we don't necessarily believe the claim is fraudulent, but just wasteful, such as having a vague or prolonged claim from churning and pullback that takes 4 months and 6 doctor visits to resolve? What can employers do to minimize such claims? Now, this brings up fraud versus potential waste, right? And what we're addressing today is very specifically really fraud indicators, where we have statements, materiality, right, that are false or fraudulent. Now, wasteful claims or claims that are prolonged, they're understandably very frustrating, right, for employers and brokers alike. And the number one thing I can say, and really my best advice, is understand with precision what the situation is regarding the claim. What is its status? Where are we in the claims process? What is the action plan to bring this claim to resolution? Now, different jurisdictions have different controls relating to when you can either question treatment or when you can challenge treatment or go to another evaluation to determine if an injured worker should receive additional treatment or should remain on disability. I think it's incumbent on the claims administrator to certainly ensure that the employer and the broker have a clear understanding of the status of the claim and where it's going. Okay, if you have an employee that continues to reopen a claim with what you feel are fraudulent reasons, how do you deal with that properly? So similar to my prior answer, but I think it's slightly different. You definitely want to understand from your claims administrator, why is this claim being reopened? Why is it appropriate within that jurisdiction that claim has been reopened? And particularly if you have additional information. For example, it is possible that you had a legitimately filed and handled claim that was opened, administered, and closed, and there's been subsequent activity, maybe to that same body part or to a different body part, and the injured worker is attempting to reopen the claim around that. Even a reopened claim should be investigated. So I strongly encourage you to alert the claims administrator to your concerns and have them address each one of them completely. Okay, I'm looking through some additional questions. Okay, this question is, when an employee has no witness to the incident and has made a habit of claiming injury, what actions can be taken? This was a long time ago issue, but I would like to know our rights in an abuse situation that we become aware of but cannot prove. And I think it's very important. Has that information that you have, has that been communicated to the claims administrator? And candidly, really you can ask them, what are our remedies in this situation? Now, certainly they would need to know all the details, but I think it's really important that if you have concerns about ongoing issues, if you've got concerns about an employee, it's certainly appropriate prior to or after a claim of injury to have dialogue with them. And I think we are out of time. So we'd like to thank you for attending our webinar series. The video will be available after the presentation on our website, and we'll also have a blog posting, as I mentioned, regarding what we've discussed today. We'll also be sending out a survey after the presentation and would appreciate any feedback you have. Finally, our next webinar will be on June 19th and will cover how opioid use can impact your business. For further information and streaming videos, use of our learning management system, or printed materials, please check out copperpoint.com and pacificcomp.com. Thank you all, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thank you.